I know this is going to sound like a bunch of rambling, but it was great fun taking that transmission apart, but it hasn't been great fun putting it back together. And I'm at my wit's ends. I've tried everything I know how to do, and I'm on the learning curve now trying new things. When I put it together like I've done so many times before, I can't get it to turn. It tightens up. And there's a few places where down in where your shims go, I've tried to line those up. There's a little spot on the pinion bearing side. You have to heat this case for it to drop in. You have to get the reverse gear on just right. And it's a real juggling act. I don't have any gaskets on this, and it seemed like if I would back off the nuts like a half or 3/4 of a turn, I would get it to move. So I just don't know what's going on, but I talked to my brother, who's an engineer, just by chance this weekend, and he suggests, why don't you take some gasket material, even though you don't have the correct one, and put it around the transmission. These are gaskets that come for the side covers, and just put it in there. Use it for a spacer, and then, you know, put it in 3 or 4 different places around the outside, so you can get the idea of the help that the thickness of the gasket's gonna help. See, just doesn't matter if it's full contact. Just get it in 4 or 5 places and put it down, and then tighten it up and see if it pulls it back enough where it relieves the pressure and it allows it to turn. Well, unfortunately, that didn't happen. But I do need this gasket. Now, to make this gasket and use this for a pattern, all these little studs and shuffle pins are in the way. And the other side of it is enclosed because it's where the, here's a transmission, same deal. Here's where it goes. And you can't get at it. So, if you'll recall a few videos ago, where did I put it? I had a transmission when we were doing the little plugs on the side. We're on the shift side. It's right in there in that differential housing. I had that scrapped old one, and so what I did is I took a Sawzall. Now we're back in the house here, and I cut it off. I just was washing it in the sink. So this now I've turned into a valuable piece. I've used everything about this thing. I learned about those detent areas, and this, now I can set this on a piece of paper. This is what being on a learning curve is all about. The other thing that I did, and I noticed even when it was in the jig, it was hard to turn. And somebody had made the suggestion on that old Howling transmission that's in Valerie. They said, well, you know, they make 140 weight oil. And so I picked some of that up. I didn't put it in Valerie, but when I was experimenting with this transmission, I put it in this transmission. And it's totally saturated. I mean, I drove it for a week or 2 that way, got it plenty warmed up on the highway, then it started popping out of reverse. So, what I've decided to do to make myself feel better is make some chocolate chip cookies. Doesn't that usually work? I had to ignore my hands off, do not operate this stove. And let's see what we've got cooking in the oven. Is that killer or what? It's probably too hot. I got it set at 200 degrees. But what I want to do is get it up to operating temperature. So I took the cookies out and put this transmission in there, and I'm going to let it heat up and see if that affects the viscosity of the oil and allows it to turn freely. Whew. Talk about reaching. I hope it works. I'll turn you back on. Oh, I tell you, those cookies were good. Talk about a sugar buzz. And after Let's see what we got in the oven here. Oh, you know what? This smells just like transmission oil. Son of a bitch. Alright. 180 degrees, so we're good for poultry. And, oh, just about bit the hell out of that rack. Now, the moment of truth. Yes. Yes. That was the problem. That 140 weight grease was just screwing things up. Making it feel wrong. Alright, I'm going to go set this out in the garage. Woohoo! Make sure you don't have any holes in your gloves. Alright. I am happy to know that. And hopefully that oven will not retain that wonderful odor. Uh-oh, gotta answer the phone. Be right back. Alrighty, fast forward a few days. I assembled the transmission correctly, the way I have many other times, being sure of myself that I had the shims. I had nothing blocking, nothing in a bind, nothing pinching. Heated up the case, dropped it in, tightened the nut, and the transmission felt like it was too tight. It was too hard to turn. I couldn't figure out what was the matter. As soon as I loosened this intermediate housing, I was able to turn it much easier. Felt normal. And that's without the ring and pinion even being in the side. This is just the gear stacks in there. So something was going on. And I talked to my brother who's an engineer, and he thinks that maybe running that 140 weight oil, which you can definitely feel the difference in just squeezing it into the transmission. That stuff is, he thinks I distorted something. That may or may not be true. I still haven't found the problem. But I put it in the car, and I had the same problem, if not worse. It was popping out of first, and it was not doing well going into second. It was like it was totally out of adjustment. So I took it out of the car, and I disassembled the transmission again, and that was the first Freeway Flyer video that I put up. I already had the tools out. I had taken the transmission apart the day before, and thanks to the magic of editing, I looked like a pretty professional mechanic, but I was having some issues that I was addressing, and I had a lot of pressure put on me by family members to be someplace by Memorial Weekend, and obviously it's Memorial Weekend and I'm still at home. It's not going to happen. You can't cut corners when you're working on this transmission. I should have put my TheEZGZ inspection and adjustment hole in there. That might have given me an option that now I don't have. I have to take it apart to do that. I did make some gaskets out of different material. This parchment baking paper is good to 428 degrees, and it's silicone coated. It is 2 thousandths thick, and it makes a dandy gasket. The factory one is thin. It was 4 thousandths thick. When I loosened the bolts on that intermediate housing, it would turn, so I decided to try this 12 thousandths thick file folder material from a filing cabinet, and it's got kind of a little glossy sheen, but no matter here nor there, it doesn't make any difference. Whenever I tighten this intermediate housing, and it is correctly, it's not, there's nothing in a bind, I don't have any shims in the wrong spot. You have to heat it up, drop it in, I know what I'm doing there. There's something going on. There was something going on when I took it apart, and it's still there. I'm not seeing it. I don't have the experience, and I've been rushed, which has cost me time, and I don't want to be driving on a holiday weekend anyhow, so screw it. Sorry, family, I ain't going to be there when you need me. And just an example, this flange, everything started going wrong. I bought some of these nylock nuts for the intermediate housing, and the last one I got to torque it down, it turned to cheese, and the torque wrench didn't click. It kept turning. I thought, what the heck, I was only at 15 pounds and the threads came out of the nut. then trying to get all that off, I stripped the stud. Luckily I had scrap transmission to take it from and make it, but it was all chewing up time, and I'm hurrying, and I thought, well, I'm just going to put it together in a bind the rest of the way, maybe it'll loosen up. I put it in the car the second time, and it still didn't work right. So now it's out again, and I said, the hell with it. I'm not happy with the transmission in Valerie, and swing axles are even more difficult because you have to deal with all these brakes and axles and all this other BS that I thought I was just going to whip through this, and I've created some problems. So you can't rush this kind of work. It's just tedious. So the rain hasn't let up. Valerie's not ready for the trip. So I thought I would take Rusty, and that's what created all this transmission work and other work. And then I started working on the front end and one thing or another, and it's my retirement. I want to take a Volkswagen. I've got other cars that I could take. I could take my my Ford F-150 and have cruise control and air conditioning, but I want to take a Volkswagen, and that's the way it goes. And it's my retirement, so nanner. And I got the old deck lid off of Valerie, and had found these hinges at the swap meet, so I was trying to make this work out, so to keep some of the water off the engine should I decide to take this on a long trip and run into this kind of weather. So there's some tin issues, and there's heat issues. You have to be real careful how you do this to not be drawing heat from the exhaust back into the engine for cooling. You want to make sure to the best that you can get your cooling from up above here away from the exhaust and the road and that type of thing. Tire sizes make a big difference in gear ratios on your engine, and you want to have your gear ratio matching the torque of your engine. This is what Volkswagen always did over the years with their lower powered engines. They had a 437, and then a few years they increased the size from 1200s and 1300s to 1500. They went with a 412 ring and pinion. Then when they got to the 1600s later on, fuel injected, they went to the 388, which they call the Freeway Flyer, which is what I'm trying to make work, but it can't be put in Valerie. It's a 66. It doesn't have the bracketry to go with an IRS suspension. I could modify it. I don't feel like it. I'm going to leave it the way it is, stock. The older I get, the more I realize the factory ain't so dumb after all. They know what they're doing, and things are pretty well engineered for the most part. And Volkswagen was one of those companies that kept a basic design and just kept refining it, which is commendable. And that's why there's so many of them still on the road today, and they were so popular when they were on the road. It was a cheap car that they refined but didn't make major changes. And anyhow, that's where we're at in the TheEZGZ garage. And I just wanted everyone to know that when you do have these, when you're on the learning curve with these transmissions, even if you have a little bit of experience, and I'm not trained by anybody, I figured all this out on my own just by books, and I learned a lot watching videos on YouTube, and that's why I'm posting these, is to give something back to the YouTube community for all that you've given me. I really appreciate all my viewers and friends and guys in the garage gang, outside the garage gang. I watch a lot of other videos besides just car stuff, and I really enjoy YouTube. I'm kind of have a little anxiety about what they're going to be making all these changes with here middle of June, but well, I guess we'll deal with them. It's free, it's theirs, so it's we'll see what happens. Probably get more commercials or something. Hope it's as fun as it is now. So enjoy, everybody, and I hope you have a great holiday, and thanks for watching. Thanks for subbing. TheEZGZ out.